And so the other day we played a clip from Joe Rogan's show where, he's on with Barry Weiss, and we have our issues with Barry Weiss as well. But nevertheless, we were using this clip as an example of how sometimes, there is motivated reasoning. Would you call that?
Confirmation bias.
Confirmation bias. Thank you. And there's this narrative that they want to promulgate that the left is out of control. And not just the left, but the sort of, I guess, the social justice left. Now, there's certainly, of course, individuals who are, extreme in one way or another. But in terms of it gaining hold in society, just so you know, the idea that white people have oppressed black people in this country, or that race, if you're black, defines your life far greater in terms of limitations within our society than it does if you're white. Broadly speaking, it's not true for every single individual, but we just interviewed someone who talked about this in the context of millennials, across class lines, across all sorts of circumstances. And this has been the case for hundreds of years in this country. I think that should be obvious to everyone. So the incidents and those things that maintain and reinforce that dynamic are far more pernicious than those that may be extreme in trying to end that dynamic. Is that clear why that's different? Why extremism for social justice warriors does not equal extremism for white supremacists? Because our society is already white supremacist and has been for hundreds of years. And even if you're one of those people who think it's more or less gone, you still must acknowledge that the dynamic is still tilted, and that the danger of extremism of a white supremacist far outweighs the extremism of a social justice warrior, because just our history in the context, right? I mean, if I have a scale and I have 100 pounds on this scale and I have 20 pounds on this side of the scale, the idea of adding 20 on this side versus 30 on this side is still more problematic, right? It's still going to tilt it down this way.
Many sides.
Right? So that's why this confirmation bias is so dangerous, because it not only overstates the case, but it way overstates and overestimates and overpathologizes the crisis that could be created by this type of extremism. But nevertheless, so this happened.
Propagation of hatred, oppression, homophobia, sexism, transphobia, racism, and ableism.
Now, if I was...
So are we supposed to sterilize white people?
There it is. We can see it up on the big screen, so it's even grosser.
Cool. That's awesome.
Because it's large. But see, this is the thing. Racism is terrible, right? So how do you stop racism? Well, racism can only be perpetrated by white people. Oh, well, the problem is white people. We got to stop white people. Well, now you're racist. Like, you're literally being racist to stop.
Is this really everywhere? I've never seen this.
Oh, well, people are finding it and posting it online.
God. Oh, my God.
And someone sent it to me. I don't know if it's everywhere. It's probably just one asshole, right?
But
the person exists, right? That person exists, and they think they're a progressive.
Do you see the cold civil war?
Okay, and they talk about, the cold civil war that's kind of coming, this and that, as if this is a real danger. As if there's some type of danger that somehow white people are going to be, despite the 400 years of evidence that we have in this country that white people are perfectly safe. They may be subjected to class issues. They may be subjected to the same type of problems in terms of opioid addiction, in some instances more. There was actually, my understanding is that particularly early on, that white people were more susceptible to opioid addiction because they had a higher incidence of having health insurance, and black people could not get the pills to get addicted to in the first place.
Yeah, and doctors are a lot more generous with the prescriptions when you're white and when you're male.
But it's really important for this conversation that they're having that this be true and dangerous and a mounting danger. And if there's only one guy, well, there's only one guy, but it's hugely extreme. And if this catches on, well, so we criticized Joe Rogan for not looking that up because it turns out it was complete fraud. You'll notice on the bottom of that poster, it says it from the Emerald City, I think Antifa, and the Emerald City Antifa said, that's not us.
It says more about the channels of communication and intelligence that are feeding into Joe Rogan than it does about the world.
Right, exactly. But it also, look, we get stuff like this all the time too. And you just have to take the responsibility of just before I put it up there, if it seems a little bit extreme, we should double check it. And there are stuff, there's been many occasions where we have said, let's not report this, let's wait a day and see what's up.
It's just bizarre. I mean, I don't expect Joe Rogan to know that much about anti-fascism, but like anti-fascists are mostly communists and anarchists. They're not black nationalists.
Well, they may be just really self-hating white people and don't want anybody to marry them or mate with them.
Possible.
But we want to correct the record because apparently someone did text Joe during the show and say, hey, man, that's fake.
Cannot change
It's crazy.
and are irredeemable
Right.
is crazy.
Cancel culture. I was talking about this with Kanye, honestly. We were talking about cancel culture.
When was he on the show?
We were talking about it in person.
Oh, okay.
On the phone.
Okay,
He's
Joe.
going to be on the show.
Okay, cool.
Allegedly. He's a little nervous about
I'd
it.
like to see him with the samurai sword posing in front of
I think he would go with the
American
Elon
flag.
Musk gun.
Yeah, you're probably
I
right.
looked up that poster. It was first posted over 2 years ago, and it supposedly is like a troll.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh,
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay,
But
good,
this
good,
is the
good.
world where it's hard to find what's a troll and what's not. What I was going to say that if I was cynical,
Well, no, wait a second. It's easy. It's easy to find. It took 3 seconds for me to find it. You just put in Antifa poster, white people, Snopes. That's all it takes. So, but it's amazing how like, oh, well, yeah, okay. Don't disregard what we just said for 3 minutes about that was based around that.
The premise has been completely exploded, but let's continue.
Let's continue. Maybe you need to reevaluate everything that came off that premise, but